everyone, so continuing the Occult Foundation video series, this video is going to touch on the higher self. Essentially, it is that highest version of you. Now, it is super conscious, and when we come to the physical world, when we come to Earth, on its ways down, it has to fracture itself. Now, when we come here and when we're living our life, learning all of this esoteric knowledge, essentially it's our roadmap home. It's knowing all of this stuff and implementing it, how to bridge that gap between ourselves and our higher self. Until we've bridged the gap to the point the gap no longer exists, we have brought our higher selves down into this physical body, which essentially means we have become super conscious beings. Doing this is sometimes easier said than done, but essentially it is through exactly what you're doing, through watching videos talking about spiritual topics, gaining more of that conscious awareness. And the beauty of the soul and the higher self is that it's always there and it's always with you. Its actions are just so subtle to the point that we often override them and think them as nothing. Those little hints or those little pushes or signs, they're so subtle, but until you gain consciousness, you might just override them and completely chalk them up to being nothing, when all actuality, they are very important and they're to guide you to your truest potential and truest happiness. Now, the beauty of operating in this modality, in this completely super conscious way of being, to achieve that, you have essentially healed yourself and become whole to the point that you truly understand what true peace means, what that complete just state of being in that complete moment exists like, that being completely fearless because you feel the love of the higher self so much. And those little feelings that we get, those little subtle nudges, are just a glimpse of the full experience of that existence. Those moments of compassion and true love, which essentially is self-love to an extent that you can extend it outward. So true love, true compassion, gratitude. Now, communicating with this soul is, and tapping into all of its knowledge, because it essentially holds all of your psychic potential. All of the knowledge of the universe is held within the higher self. And getting more in touch with it, making it a habit of communicating with it, is how you increase your psychic abilities. And this is done through meditation, journaling, dream work, really tapping into it, using that intuition. A lot of shaman teachings and shaman practices will teach on connecting the higher self via the emotions, which is the intuition, because connecting those two and completely bypassing the mind and the ego is easier. Sometimes it can skew things, want to change things, morph things, just because it has a tendency to overthink and categorize and So it's just easier for the soul to communicate via the primal soul. So those are a few of the ways to really contact the higher self. But essentially what's most important to know, and the magic to know about the higher self, is it's truly who you are, and it holds everything that you'll ever need. The more you get in touch with it, and the more whole you become, the less you rely on the outside world and all of the material things for your happiness. Because true happiness is found within the experiences of that higher self. And a lot of his magic is that omnipresence power, that all present, all knowing, all feeling. Being completely aware, completely conscious, which is where superconscious comes into play. Being completely conscious of yourself. So when I sit here and talk about everything, and for the most part it feels really nice, and talking about true love and gratitude and bliss, and it's beautiful, and that's perfect. But it's also important to remember to I don't want to romanticize it too much, because you're still a human being experiencing life. You're still going to have negative experiences, but when you embody more of your true self, you are more readily able to deal with them and to bounce back. You are more in charge of yourself and your mind and your emotions. That level of sovereignty and knowing your power, because the soul is all powerful, and embodying it is truly embodying your truth and your birthright. So with that being said, that gives perspective into the higher self, the higher soul. And through the video series, you can see how each one has its own bit of magic, and each one is needed to really operate fully and completely within this lifetime, and how they can benefit you, as well as noticing their drawbacks when out of balance. So I hope this video series was helpful, and until the next one, I wish you all well.